Sup everybody, welcome to the YouTube channel. So today we're gonna do part 1 of 3 on how to bench press. So first part is pretty straightforward and obviously it should be the first one you do, which is setup. With bench press, this goes with squat and deadlift as well. Your setup is actually what's going to also set you up for the lift to be successful or not. So this might be the most paramount of the 3 parts to make sure you get down. The first part we're going to start with is the initial actually getting set and tight on the bench, okay? A good general rule of thumb with bench press is you want to get in an uncomfortable position. If you are comfortable, you are doing it wrong. When I'm fully set up, it feels like my head's going to blow off. Make sure you're getting yourself uncomfortable when you try these techniques on how to set up. First part, lay down on the bench, and I want you to start behind the bar. Now, the reason why for this is we're gonna pull ourselves up and forward, and what it's gonna do is it's gonna create like a coiling effect in our upper back. So what I'm looking for is trying to actually arch more in the upper back and really picking up the chest and picking up the upper back as we pull up and forward. And we're gonna push our body weight up onto our traps. What that looks like is, I'm gonna grab the bar, doesn't really matter where you grab it right now, okay? Grab the bar, I'll pull myself up and forward, okay? See how that creates that upper back coil. See, I've already got a little bit of arching going on here, okay? Next part is I'm gonna pinch my shoulder blades together, okay? Now from here, I'm gonna use my legs and I'm gonna push myself up onto my traps. So see, I'm gonna push myself up, wiggle myself up high onto my traps, okay? Now, if you notice, okay, without even bringing my legs back or really setting my legs up super tight, I already have a nice little arch going and my chest is already picked up and I'm already getting tension in my lats. So this is a huge mistake that I see a lot of people make. They don't set their upper back. They're so worried about getting into an arch, they forget about getting tension in their upper back and tension in their lats. Your lats and your upper back, especially for bench press, it's going to be the thing that helps stabilize and control the weight and build that stretch reflex and pressure at the bottom to help blast that weight out your chest. I like to think of it as like the spring, but it's also what helps control the weight too. After we're going to pull ourselves up and forward, okay, we push ourselves up onto our traps. Now, if you notice, I talk about pinching our shoulder blades together, okay? Now this, if you're going to take anything out of all the parts, this is the most important thing because this can prevent you from blowing your shoulder off. This is also the hardest thing to get down. I highly recommend making videos of yourself or having a friend or a coach, someone watch you the first few times you try to do this to make sure you're doing it. It's very challenging, which is keeping your shoulder blades back. So what you have to learn how to do when you do this, okay, is you have to learn how to pinch your shoulder blades together and keep them pinched as you're pressing. So what that looks like is, if you look at my back, I'm going to pinch my shoulder blades together and I'm going to keep my shoulders down and tight. So I don't want to be pinched like up here, all scrunched up. I want to be shoulders down, shoulder blades back. See how my shoulders are nice and pinched. Now, if you notice, even as I move my arms, that stays in that same exact tight position. I'm not losing that, okay? Couple good tricks to make sure you keep your shoulder blades back as you're pushed with the arms. One, I always like to think pressing with my arms. One of my favorite ways of thinking of it is like Bill Kazmaier talked about how he likes his arms like hydraulics, you know, and his chest is just the machine. So what I like to think about is I'm pinching my shoulder blades together. I got that bar. My arms are the hydraulics. They're just pumping the weight, okay? Now, if that doesn't work for you, say you're still finishing where you're kind of squeezing like this and you're ungluing those shoulders. Think about pressing away from the bench. So a good way to think of this is if you go forward, your shoulders are going to follow. So a good tip to make sure your shoulders don't follow forward is actually to drive away. So when you go down, right, instead of thinking about pushing forward, think about pushing yourself into the bench, driving the weight away from you. And your shoulders will then follow back. It'll help drive it back. That is a great way to help keep your shoulder blades back. Okay, next tip is how to set up your legs. Probably shouldn't have worn jeans for this, that's okay. How to set up your legs. So we got our shoulder blades back. We're gonna push ourselves up onto our traps. Shoulder blades nice and tight, weights on the upper back, right? What we're gonna do now with the legs is we're going to bring our feet back until our heels are just slightly above the ground, okay? And what this is to create tension in our quads and our hips, okay? When you do this too, I want you to bring your feet out wide because it gives you a more stable base. Now, this is going to be entirely based on your hip mobility. So if you have bad hip mobility, you might be tied in. That might be something to work on to help get a little wider. Ideally, the wider you can go, the more stable you're going to be. You'll notice a lot of really good bench pressers bench with their feet out wide. Another option, though, you could do, which is for very flexible people, I can't really demonstrate this, is benching on your toes. So if you're very, very flexible, you can get to that really big arch, you know, you can do that exercise style bench. Bench on your toes, especially if your federation allows it. Get up on your toes like this, okay, with your heel above the ground like that, okay? Really bring your feet back. A good trick with that is you actually want to, if you're gonna bench this way, like I said, I can't really demonstrate, I don't really have the flexibility for that. But what you wanna do is you're gonna bring your feet back and your heels here, and you wanna imagine hugging the bench. You wanna squeeze the bench with your thighs, toes turned out a little bit. That's gonna give you the most stability that you can really get with a toe style bench. This, generally speaking, works for like very flexible people. Usually women tend to do really well with it as well. Or like little guys, you know, tend to do really well with it. If you have long legs, you have a really hard time with this. So I usually don't even bother teaching this to people if they're above like 5'6", 5'8", 7, you know, their legs are too long. We're here, right? Pull myself up and forward, shoulder blades tight, push up off of those traps. Now I'm gonna bring my feet back and to the side. See how my heels are just slightly off the ground? My feet's nice and wide. I have tension in those quads. Now what I'm gonna do, okay, so I push those heels down. I'm gonna squeeze my butt hard. Then I set my butt on the bench. So now if you notice, I got full body tension here. This is a very uncomfortable position. I can't really maintain this for very long, okay? But when I am in that setup, I got tension in my legs, tension in my lats, my chest is nice and high. I got full body pressure. So I'm gonna show it to you one more time just so you see the full exact setup, okay? And see what that full super tight setup looks like. I'll pull myself up and forward. Push him on the traps. Bring my feet back. Heels down, butt squeeze. There we go. That's your setup. Shoulder blades nice and tight. Right there. Okay? All right. That's all we're going to go over today for part 1. There'll be part 2 and 3 coming up where we'll go over grip, how to take the bar out, and how to use leg drive as well. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe to your friends and family, co-workers, training buddies, side chick, whatever. Share it to whoever. If you're interested in coaching, there's a link in the description. Please contact. And feel free to even just contact if you want to ask some questions. If you want us to make a video about something you have questions about. Thank you. Have a nice day.